My name is Joe. I've been working on this Dodge Intrepid here. Put a new water pump in it and everything, and I have a couple of little tricks that I use to keep the timing marks all in line. If you notice, the right hand mark lined up, the left hand timeline lined up with the arrow. Now down here you can't see it very well, but down here there's another timing mark on your cam with your timing chains. Now when you remove your gears to get your water pump out, and you take the tensioner out right there, this whole wheel, this one, is going to rotate about 12 clicks that way. Once you loosen this up, because you'll need to loosen the chain, so when you get the slack in it and you loosen the chain up from here, this one's going to rotate about 12 clicks over from the line. This one here won't move, and this one down here won't move. And you don't have to move them, don't move them. But if this one moves, to however many clicks to bring it back up to top, what you do is you take your breaker bar, I use a long one, you insert it into this, right in there, lock it down, and then as you hold the chain up with your hand, and then you turn the breaker bar until you line this back up, this gear back up with this. And then when you set this back on there and snug it back down, it'll hold this gear in place. This one and this one will not move as long as you don't move them yourself. This one's the only one that will move when you loosen this chain up to get that off of there, to remove that. And a trick I learned was you take a regular, it fits right in there, there's a socket, breaker bar. You raise the chain up, and as you're holding it with your left hand, or your right, however you do it, you turn this until you line back up. And then you set all your stuff back in place. And as long as your marks are all lined up on the chain, because the chain doesn't move. I didn't take the chain out, I didn't have to do all of that, I just had to replace the water pump. That's the quickest and fastest and easiest way to do this without having to go through a big major rip down and then your timing being all thrown out of whack. So I don't know if this helps or not, but it sure did work for me, other than draining the water or the oil, because when I pulled the water pump off, water fell into the oil. Other than that, and putting it all back together, she'll be as good as new. New water pump. The oil pump was fine, didn't have to change it, but if you ever have to do the water pump or the oil pump, it's the same thing. There's a marking on the gear, a marking on this gear to line up with and you got to keep everything even with that line. But I didn't have to do all of that. I didn't have to do all of that. As long as this gear here doesn't move, and if you have to replace this gear here to the oil pump, as long as this gear doesn't move and this shaft doesn't move, you can do this without having to go through a big major timing reset and all of that. Big major headache. Anyway, that's just a quick route of what I did and how I did it, and everything's right where it should be. I have no doubt that it will be fine, but I will let you know. Again, my name is Joe, the backyard mechanic. I fix all my own equipment, my bikes, my trucks, everything I do my own. But I learn tricks and little things to make it easier for people, and that's just one of them for the Dodge Intrepid, or the 2.7 liter engine with everything built into the motor. All in all, you can do it in a day or so if you go about the basic ways like I'm doing, unless you got to do a major chain replacement and all that. Then there's a little bit different more into it. But I'm just replacing the water pump. Everything else is still good, in clean shape, and not needed. On depressing this, I just used a regular ink pen. It calls for a tool like this here, but I just used an ink pen and a rag, held it down, plunged it, pressed the oil out of that, and then pressed this one here and locked it in place. So it squeezes down and locks in place like that there. which is easy, but I just used a safety pin and a rag and a little bit of elbow push, and it worked just fine. Didn't have to get no fancy tools or nothing. The only tool I did have to get was to pull this off, and then I found out I probably could have got around not having to do that if I'd have loosened up a bunch of stuff, but it was easier because I couldn't get to these screws and this plate otherwise with that gear there. But other than that, it's going pretty simple. I'm gonna assemble it all back together now that my timing marks and everything's back on place. Again, it's Joe, backyard mechanic, just giving you a few pointers. Thanks. Have a good day.